Greetings. Back in August, actually it was probably the first week of August when I was kind of on a hiatus, I did a video where I talked about breaking my mother out of a nursing home. That's actually the words I used. And the issues that I had leading up to that and then immediately after that. But I skipped a lot at that time, and now I'm ready to tell the entire story because I know that there's a lot of people who've had to deal with nursing homes all across the country in different ways. And I'm here to tell you that I fought a nursing home and I won. I won because I have a little bit of knowledge that a lot of other people don't have. And I also have this spirit that basically says, oh heck, I ain't losing to nobody. And that includes these people. And I decided to share how I did it, share the process, and explain why I did it the way I did and how it ended up working out for me. So we go back to August. I broke my mother out of the nursing home. That video is going to be at the end of this one, by the way, in the the end credit, in case you want to go back to it. So I break her out, and within basically a week and a half of her being home, the first bill shows up from the nursing home, and it's for $13,534. Well, I had a major problem with that. The major problem being that when I had gone to a discharge planning meeting with these folks, they had said that my mother's Medicare had run out on July 11th, and that from that point on, they were billing her as self-pay at $375 a day. Well, you do the math on that, and that's basically came to less than $5,000. So them sending me a bill of over $13,000, illogical, made no sense. It's impossible, can't happen, because Medicare was still covering everything up until that day, and her secondary insurance, which is Blue Cross, was covering the balance. And she also has TRICARE, that's military insurance for those of y'all who aren't used to hearing that term. So mom was totally covered. So they had no right. That right off the bat irked the heck out of me. As a matter of fact, I was so angry, I called Medicare, because that is who you're supposed to call, at least initially. And I called them and I complained about it. I said, there's no way this can be this price. I want to file a claim against them. And the representative said, well, they haven't billed us for July yet, so we can't really do anything to them until they send us the July bill. To which I said, but wait a minute. You already know how much you have paid, beforehand. You know that even if they bill you for this, that there's no way that she would have owed $13,000 of anything for the short time period. She says, well, you're telling us that, and I agree with you on that, but there's nothing we can do until they actually bill for the rest of it, and then we deny the dates because they're going to bill us for the entire month. I said, okay, fine. We'll go with that for now. Now, the following week, I get another bill from the nursing home, and it's for $8,800. Okay, now that's less than that $13,500, but it's still illogical. Makes no sense. Now, they're sending me a non-itemized bill. So basically, it's a statement. And on the statement, they show this payment, but they don't say who the payment is from, and it's just this blanket amount. So you don't know who the payment is from, you don't know what period it covers, you don't know the allowances that they're supposed to write off, because that's how it works. No insurance company in the nation pays any bills in total. It just doesn't work that way. They make agreements with different medical providers. We're going to pay this much, you're going to write off this much. And, because this is how much we cover based on the plan that the person has. And then you can bill them for the amount that's left unless you decide that you want to bill their secondary insurance. In general, you can't just write that off, especially if Medicare is involved. I'm not getting into that right now, but that's actually part of the law. That's federal law. So I got this other thing. I said, this doesn't make any sense. So I do two things that most people probably wouldn't have thought of. I had already been talking to the Ombudsman Office, which is basically a county agency that works with nursing homes. I mean, they don't work for them, but they work with them, and they're supposed to be an advocate for the patients or the patients' families. I had called them earlier in the year when my mother had been, first got there, because they weren't letting me see her and I really wasn't happy with what they were telling me, so I happened to mention it to this ombudsman at the time, and she went in there. She got to see Mom. And I also had griped about something else they were doing at the time, and she said, well, unfortunately, it turns out that they're allowed to do that as long as they don't use it for marketing purposes, and we can't tell them they can't. Which I'm thinking, wait, you're the county. So I called them to explain this thing, and then I called a state agency. New York statewide, whatever the rest of it is. But I called this, a state agency because I know how to look these things up. All you have to basically look up is elder rights on your state. So elder rights, New York State, you will get the name of an agency and you can call them. And if they're not the right ones, they will probably get you someone else, because the state doesn't just always say, well, we don't handle that, goodbye. They're going to send you to someone else. So I get this lady, very nice lady. I'm explaining all these things to her. And she says, well, let me see what we can do. Now, you wait another week, I get another bill for $8,800. They said, okay, at least now we've stopped at a certain thing. Then we get to September. A couple of days before my mother passes away, I get another bill for $13,500. I said, what the devil? These people are just sick. Now I decide it's time to ask for an itemized bill. I should have done that beforehand, but I didn't, because I don't know why. I just wasn't thinking about it. So, first bit of advice to everybody, always ask for an itemized bill. So I eventually asked for the itemized bill. What I get is a mess. I've been in healthcare. What is this? This is 2022. So I've been in healthcare since August of 1983. God, I'm getting old. Anyway, this is not an itemized bill. An itemized bill will list everything by day. And then when a payment comes in, it will list the amount of the payment, who it's from, and then the amount of the allowance. And that should have just been zero. All that should have been zero. They didn't list any of that. I didn't get any of the daily stuff that I had before. And by the way, I forgot to mention that on the first statement that came to my mother, that $13,500, the day after she got there, they charged her $12,200. No explanation, just this charge on there. So I battled that as well. So now we get to this point where, okay, like I said, it's me trying to figure out how I'm going to handle this, because the ombudsman's office is deficient. They're not trying at all. New York statewide agency is trying to help, but they got other things to do. Yes, they're supposed to be the advocates for the families who have to deal with this kind of thing, but they're also dealing with helping people register for Medicare, which I didn't think that was a thing. I didn't think that was a state thing they were supposed to do. So I requested the entire medical record from my mother. You can do this in every state. It's a federal law. They're allowed to charge you for that. And in New York, it's limited to 75 cents a page. I don't know if that's every other state, but here, 75 cents a page. So I called up the medical records department, spoke to the director, said, okay, I want my mother's full medical record. So she says, I'll call you back in an hour to tell you how much it's going to be. So she gets back to me and she says, well, that's $170 and change. I said, okay, yeah. She says, really? I said, yes. She says, oh, most people don't want that. I'm not most people. And I said that. So I get that. Then I go online because, like I said, I've done this a good long time, but even though I had to oversee the financial aspects of a nursing home, I always thought that there was a law that said that if a person's in a nursing home and the nursing home days are about to run out from Medicare, that they're supposed to inform the family. It turns out there's two things about that particular law. One, it ain't a law from the federal government. It is a state law. So states have to pass that. And out of this United States, only 19 states have passed a law saying that nursing homes have to either advise the patient or their representative that their days are about to run out. That's in general terms. Here's the other thing, however. That doesn't apply to rehab. So if someone is on rehab, at a certain point, if they're actually still improving, then they're still supposed to file records. Everything is supposed to be in the medical records. If they stop improving, after 2 weeks, they're supposed to notify both Medicare and the family member or the patient that there's no improvement, we have to stop. That's whether Medicare benefits have stopped or not. So I needed to get the medical records so I could see that. There were a couple of other things wrong. When my mother came home, it turns out that she had this bed sore on one of her heels, and it looked horrible. But I didn't know whether they knew about that or not. And then I had some folks come over who found that she had this massive bed sore in her butt cheeks and, underneath there, which I hadn't noticed that because even though I had started to clean Mom, my next door neighbor came over. She's, female, and she noticed that. And then when the other people came over, one of them, which was a registered nurse, she took a picture of it. So I have this picture that I still have, which is gross, but I just don't trust the nursing home. But I'll get back to that. So when I got the medical record, the first thing I did was I started from day one and went through, read everything. Just so you know, I used to read medical records in hospitals. So I know kind of the process, even though it looks a little different. So I got the medical record, which included what the nurses did, what PT did, what OT did, because stupidity. But they did occupational therapy, they did speech therapy. Mom had dementia, so speech therapy wasn't going to work. Occupational therapy, Mom's got dementia. She ain't going to do any of that stuff. Early on, she was doing some things. Okay, that works out fine. And then you could read in the record that Mom was declining. And they were having trouble getting her out of the bed to always do things. Well, I had addressed that before Mom got there when I called and I spoke to the admissions coordinator and I told her all this stuff about my mother. So they should have already known that, idiots. Yes, I said that. Anyway, I got the full medical record. And in the medical record, it stated from a physical therapist that they're no longer able to do anything with her regarding physical therapy and that they should set up a discharge plan with her representative to discuss her discharge or further services, which basically meant they were trying to get Mom to stay there. And that was in June, right there in the medical record. So they don't tell me until July, I don't remember the exact date, but it was the last Friday in July. That's when they tell me. But this note's already there. So I already got incriminating evidence that they knew what the rule was. Also, the medical record actually mentioned something about the heel, but it never mentioned anything about the other bed sore. Nothing. Not in this thick packet that I got. Nothing. And when the nurse had come here, she said there's no way that happened since she's been home. So I got that. So I sent copies of specific pages to the state rep. And she got it. And I know she got it. And so I'm thinking, okay, we're going to do this. This is all going to go well. And so we get through basically most of October. I'm not hearing anything. Then I start getting, and I keep saying me, everything is in Mom's name. So Mom gets this bill for the amount that I would have expected had they sent it to me the first time, even though I still wasn't going to pay it. But it's now down to $5,900. Okay, that's there. But however, their note says, if we don't get a payment, we're going to have to send this to collection. Now, understand how billing works. They started off by sending me this thing for $13,500, fraud. They send me the next one for $8,800, fraud. Now they're sending me one for this new thing, and they're telling me they're going to send me to collection because I didn't pay anything on the first two statements that they sent me, which were fraud. So I called the state rep, and I said, okay, I just got this thing now. The amount is probably accurate, although I'm not paying that. But now they're talking about sending me collection. What do you think I should do? She says, well, I'm not sure. We've never dealt with this before, which I don't doubt. She says, let me talk to the supervisor. I say, okay. So I give it a week. And then I call back and I get her on the phone, which was kind of difficult to do. And she said, I haven't been able to reach the supervisor. I said, okay, I can't take any more chances with this. It's time I do something. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write them a letter. I'm going to detail everything that I have found. I'm going to tell them in the letter that I've got you, I've got the county, and I've got Medicare on alert of what's been going on, and that I'm ready to sue them and basically out them to the entire area. And I'm going to do this. I'm not going to mention you by name, but I'm going to mention your agency. They know about it because you've talked to them. They know about the other place because they've talked to them. And I'm going to send you a copy of the letter once I finish it. She says, okay, let's try that. Let's try that. So what happens? I sit down and I type a letter, 5-page letter, detailed everything, detailed the process, detailed the fact that when we had the discharge meeting, which was on a Friday, we had actually had one scheduled 8 days earlier, that they called me to cancel because they said they didn't have all their people together. So in essence, they charged me, or charged my mother, for 8 days of self-pay that would not have happened had they not canceled that. So there's one problem. Then the second thing, the day mom was discharged, they actually decided to call me and tell me that they were not agreeing with the discharge. They weren't approving it, and if I was going to do it, it was going to be against medical advice. And they called me an hour before she was supposed to be home. So in the letter, I put that in there. And then I said, if we were supposed to have the meeting the Thursday beforehand, they should have had that particular discussion the Tuesday before that Thursday and been ready to say something. That didn't happen. And if I had kept to the same time frame, which was 4 days after I get notified this thing, I'm bringing mom home, then she would have been home the day before. Those nurses would have got together to go against the discharge. My mother would have had some care in the house through an agency, which you then rescinded on that same day. And we wouldn't have got adult protective services involved in this because she would have been home. I mentioned that. I mentioned the fraud and how I had already contacted Medicare, but they wanted to wait until certain things happened. I mentioned how the state had called them. I mentioned how the ombudsman had even visited and questioned other things about them that I had brought up. I mentioned the medical record. I mentioned the heel. I mentioned the other massive bed sore. I mentioned everything. And I didn't use angry words. That's always important when you're trying to do something, because a lot of people put too much emotion in it. Then they start repeating themselves. Makes it a little difficult for anyone to read. Not saying that they're not going to read it, but they can always say, I didn't understand what they were saying. You always need to be clear and concise, even when you're talking to people on the phone. So I put all that in there. Then I ended down at the bottom. I said, my mother passed away on September 3rd. There is no estate for you to deal with. I wasn't going to pay that anyway. However, I am going to pay the, let's see, what was it? $4,400, $1,500. I'm going to pay $1,500 because when we had the discharge meeting, I said I would pay for that day and the next 3 days, because you don't pay for the day someone's discharged. I said I'm going to pay the $375 times 4, and that's how I'm going to do. That's all I plan on paying. If we need to go further with this, then we will. I already have a lawyer who's ready to go. And I did have a lawyer, by the way, an elder care lawyer. It was my mother's lawyer. So we were ready to go all this way. But you know what? I was angry. I had been angry and depressed since mom came home because of that. And then mom passed away because I couldn't get anyone in to see her. And I was irked. And I was upset. And I wanted blood. And then I get to November. It's like, you know what? I kind of still want blood. But I need to move on. So let's see what they respond to this. Let's see, how it goes. So I get this letter. I send a copy to the state. I send a copy to the county. I put it in an envelope. I go to the post office. I send it certified mail to the administrator because I had tried to send something earlier to them, and then it was delivered to the facility, but it didn't get to anybody. And when I got to see the signature, someone just wrote a C on it. Well, if you send a certified letter to the administrator, they're not going to do that. Because it turns out the post office scans that too. So right there on the envelope, it says who it's for. So it got to the right person. So had to wait a few days because I sent that out on a Friday along with the cashier's check. I did not use a check from my mother's account. Actually, it was our account. So I didn't send a check from that because I didn't want them to have that number. I sent a certified check, certified letter, cashier's check, certified letter, send it out. That was on a Friday. The following Friday, I had a business lunch to go to. So I go to my business lunch. I get home. There's a message on the phone. It's the administrator saying, Mr. Mitchell, thank you for the check that you sent us. We've read the letter. We're disturbed by what you had to say. We're writing off the entire account. I said, wait, what? So I had to call her back. Hi, hello. Yeah, I just want to verify what you stated, on the voicemail. I want to hear it directly from you. She says, well, yes, we read the letter and it was disturbing, and everything else you mentioned. 'Cause I mentioned some other stuff along the way, by the way. So I had other stuff. That's how come it got to 5 pages. She said, and we appreciate that you even sent the check that you did. So we're taking that. We're writing everything else off. You don't owe anything to us. I said, well, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. However, there's some things on there that I hope you folks address. The fraud thing is a really big deal because you sent that to me and I'm someone who happens to know what the rules are, but you probably have your people sending that to a lot of other folks and you're getting them all fussed and worried and whatever, and that's not right. And as a matter of fact, the state representative said that that's something that they're going to be looking in, changing for New York State because, that's scary. Dropping a bill on somebody for $5,000 would be scary. $13,000, $20,000, that's just wrong. And she said, yes, that and what you mentioned about the medical records. So I took the letter that you sent and I sent it to our corporate office. And that's something else you need to think about. Because it turns out that a lot of nursing homes and assisted living facilities are actually part of large corporations. And as I'm telling you that right now, I'm linking to a video that John Oliver did, where he did this whole thing on nursing homes. Yes, his language is a little bawdy, but he hit everything properly and he told some major truths. I mean, I hate to say this, but there's a whole bunch of us who are probably going to end up even being considered for a nursing home at some point unless we can keep our sanity and we can still take care of ourselves. Because you can't always, count on family members. If you don't have enough money to get someone to keep staying with you or someone like me who was able to do that based on my little bit of income and mom's money at the time because I hadn't, I had mom with me for 5 years so I couldn't do my regular career. But if you have all that kind of thing going, then you have a chance to stay in your own home. And there are states, not the federal government right now, unfortunately, but there are some states that are looking into finding ways to help supplement families so they can keep people at home. Even if it's just educating the family so they know how to take care of someone better, giving certain Medicaid money to people at home rather than the nursing homes so that they can take care of people in their home. We could all use that. Anyway, this is my story for how I fought the nursing home. So what did we say to do here? One, you always ask for a copy of the medical record and you go through that thing step by step. If it's a rehab visit and you see something in there that says they couldn't do anything, because by the way, even after that, they still tried to do physical therapy every single day, but it doesn't work that way. Once they've already put in that there's nothing we can do, it's done. Copy of medical record. Contact someone from the state. Contact someone from the county or parish if you're in a state that has parishes instead. Contact those people. See what they can do for you. See if you can get some kind of communication going. Contact Medicare. If you get a bill for something, contact Medicare and find out what needs to be done. The one thing the nursing home does have to tell you is how much it is per day. And you can do that calculation on your own. You got calculators that do whatever. And then you find that, okay, this is as much they can, as they would, quote unquote, be allowed to charge me. But they sent me this bill for a lot more Medicare, because that's Medicare fraud. As a matter of fact, Fraud basically says that if someone sends a bill that they know is incorrect or should know is incorrect for more than what you would owe, that's considered fraudulent. So these people should have known that you can't send me a bill for $13,500 when both insurances had been paying everything in total. And off the day that you said you were sending her to self-pay, the most it could be is, well, at that point, it would have been $4,400 because the extra $1,500 hadn't been on there. You have to protect yourselves. You could probably get yourself an elder care lawyer, but truthfully, I think that you should probably try to do something for yourself first. I mean, you don't necessarily really need the knowledge that I had. Like I said, I knew a whole lot of things about the financial part of it. And medical records, you know what, I've been getting my mother's medical records from the hospital and from doctors for the longest time. I get my own medical records. So I'm just that way because I know how to read these things. But it never hurts to do that. And you do that even before you decide, you know what, I'm mad at these folks, I'm going to go to a lawyer. Always get your medical records first, because once a lawyer gets involved, then the nursing home is going to delay, and it could take you a while to get those medical records. If you get those medical records up front, they have to give it to you. Anyway, that's what I have. I support everybody out there who might have to go through this, and there's going to be a lot of you. I know that because I was part of this dementia group on Facebook, and I put that out there, and I put my initial story out there, and these folks were like, thank you for this information. We had no clue, and other people have been going through this, and I'm not talking 1 or 2 people. I had over 400 people in this group write me, so I'm telling you, you know, this happens. And if your parents are at a certain age, you just might want to find out something about this. At the very least, make sure you look at that John Oliver video. And like I said, he's a bit bawdy, and he's also kind of a comedian, so he adds some stuff in there. But if you take that just like water, whatever the term is, you will say, man, don't be scared to look at what could possibly happen. Prepare for that so that you don't have to deal with it. I even wore a good shirt. My name is Mitch Mitchell. I wish the best for everybody. You have any questions? You have any comments? Go ahead and please leave them. Thank you very much. Y'all take care.